Daily Star, 20th of March 2024, the border between Bangladesh and India, zero death pledge rendered false by illegal immigration. Many Bangladeshi immigrants cross the border into India for a better existence. Killings along the Bangladesh-India frontier have increased gradually over the past 3 years, notwithstanding the state's repeated pledges to eliminate them. A border guard Bangladesh, BGB, member and another Bangladeshi were allegedly killed in January during BSF firings along the Jashore and Lalmonirhat borders in response to unauthorized border crossings. This trend persists this year. 31 Bangladeshis were killed in BSF shootings in 2018, the most since 2020, when 47 Bangladeshis were killed along the frontier, according to data compiled by Ain O Shalish Kendra using media reports as sources. The January 22 assassination of BGB Sepoy Mohammed Roy Sutton incited cross-border protests and condemnation. This incident again exemplifies India's border guardians, BSF, and their propensity for hasty reactions. According to Kirti Roy, secretary of the West Bengal-based Muslim rights organization Banglar Manabadhikar Suraksha Mancha, Masoom, the BSF authority should not be permitted to act as an executioner. Masoom demanded a joint investigation by the Human Rights Commissions of India and Bangladesh in a statement released 3 days after Roy Sutton's murder. The organization also urged international rights organizations to speak out against the systematic killings perpetrated by BSF. The 54th Director General, DG, level border conference between Border Guard Bangladesh, BGB, and Indian Border Security Force, BSF, is currently being held in Dhaka. The purpose of this conference is to discuss various border security issues. Today, the discussions conclude. Bangladesh and India share a land border spanning 4,096 kilometers, the fifth longest globally. Although a significant portion of the border is not fortified, certain border crossings are notorious for illicit border crossings and the smuggling of commodities, such as cattle and narcotics. Rights organizations and the families of victims have cast doubt on BSF's frequent assertion that its forces initiate fire in self-defense, stating that this is not always the case. Executive Director of the ASK Farooq Faisal demanded a collaborative inquiry to ascertain the true motive behind the BSF shooting and devise measures to prevent similar homicides in the future. He stated that the Indian Border Patrol's murders of Bangladeshis are unwarranted. ASK data indicates that at least 23 and 18 Bangladeshi nationals were murdered by BSF members in 2022 and 2021, respectively. 61 of the 73 Bangladeshis murdered in the 3 years since 2021 were tortured to death, according to the rights organization. At least 60 of these victims were shot. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her Indian counterpart Narendra Modi reached a bilateral agreement on September 6, 2022, to collaborate to eliminate deaths due to incidents. In March 2011, at a DG-level meeting between the BSF and BGB in New Delhi, it was decided that the BSF would conduct experimental operations at specific border points using non-lethal weapons and its regular arsenal. At the time, the BGB issued a press release stating that if the trial were to be successful, India would employ non-lethal weapons along the entire border area with Bangladesh. BSF has since consented to use non-lethal weapons at multiple high-level meetings of the two border forces. However, fighting continues along the border. 12. Federal Minister Hassan Mahmood informed journalists on February 12, following a recent visit to India, that Dhaka and Delhi had reached an agreement regarding the use of non-lethal weapons to end border murders. Local BGB members reported that Bangladeshi fisherman Jahangir Alam, 24, was shot and injured by BSF in the right forearm 5 days after the briefing, on February 17, when he approached Indian territory while fishing in Chapanawabganj. BSF shot and killed Bangladeshi national Raiful Islam Tuklu earlier on January 28 in the Patgram Upazila of Lalmonirhat, Lahore, after he entered India. Following the demise of Roy Sutton, a member of the BGB and the BSF issued conflicting statements. According to a statement released by the BGB Jashore Battalion on January 24, a BGB patrol team apprehended traffickers carrying cattle into Bangladesh from India at approximately 5:30 a.m. on January 22. As the BGB team pursued the traffickers, they attempted to escape, and Sepoy Roy Sutton became disoriented from his squad due to the dense fog. The statement continues, it was subsequently determined that he had been wounded in BSF fire and was receiving treatment at a hospital in India at the time of his death. A South Bengal BSF public relations officer, A.K. Arya, recently told the Daily Star that a BSF Jawan fired in self-defense when a group of cattle traders assaulted him. Unharmed by the gunfire was a cattle trader dressed in a t-shirt and lungi. He was transported to the hospital, where he ultimately passed away. BGB subsequently transmitted a photograph of its missing member, who was identified as the deceased individual. He stated over the phone that the matter is still under investigation on our end. However, the Indian rights organization Masum noted in a statement that Roy Sutton's murder was not retaliatory and that there is no evidence that he assaulted BSF personnel. When queried about the ongoing border killings and India's pledge to eliminate them, AK Arya responded, BSF Jawans employ lethal weapons in self-defense when criminals assault them, even though they carry non-lethal weapons otherwise. Tahid Hossain, a former foreign secretary, stated that border killings are entirely unanticipated. Regarding the assassination of the BGB member, he said, instead of taking the law into their own hands, they, the BSF, could have detained the BGB member and brought him before a court. I am unaware if there are any other international borders where an equivalent number of individuals are slain. The fatalities are not as high even at the borders of two feuding nations. Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed Hassan Jamil, commander of the Jashore Battalion of the BGB, declined to remark on the matter, citing an ongoing investigation. The press liaison for the BGB, Lieutenant Kal Am Zahid Parvez, Director of Operations, did not return our calls or texts. When the Daily Star approached MD Mustafizur Rahman, the Senior Secretary of the Home Ministry's Public Security Division, he suggested that the publication contact Mohammed Mukhlisur Rahman Sarkar, an additional secretary in charge of the Ansar and Border Wings. Mukhlisur responded that he was not the appropriate contact and directed the correspondent to communicate with AKM Tipu Sultan, an additional secretary in charge of the Political and ICT Wing. Tipu Sultan declined to comment, stating he lacks the authority. Home Minister Asaduzaman Khan did not answer the phone despite numerous attempts.